I probably shouldn't be writing this. Hell, I probably shouldn't have gone along in the first place. But it's easier to write it down than to sit alone at night with the memories playing on a loop in my head, like corrupted footage I can't stop replaying. So if you're reading this, take it as a warning. Not every abandoned building is just empty walls and dust. Some of them are full. We thought it was going to be a joke. There were 5 of us. Mark, our ringleader, camera always in hand. The one who lived for YouTube views and kept saying, "This'll be the one that blows us up." Jenna, his girlfriend, sharp-tongued, quick to laugh, but also quick to snap when nerves frayed. Tyler, the skeptic, always calling bullshit on ghost stories but never missing a chance to scare someone else. Luis, quieter, more of a follower, but loyal as hell. And me. I was just the guy holding the second camera, the one who edited the videos, the one who thought we'd come home with a few jump scares and a pile of footage to cut into a 30-minute upload. The idea was simple. Sneak into the old Fairview Asylum and film a haunted exploration video. Fake some noises. Throw in a few screams. Make it scary enough for the algorithm to notice. Mark had it all planned. He'd watched enough Nuke's Top 5 compilations to know the formula. Wandering dark halls with flashlights, creepy noises, someone swearing they saw something. Repeat until the big scare at the end. Except, to make it believable, we were going to manufacture the scares ourselves. Tyler had volunteered to slip away during filming and make noises, dragging metal, whispers, the occasional knock. We even bought a piece of rusty chain from a junkyard so we could scrape it along the walls. The rest of us would pretend to freak out. Easy content. We left just after sunset. Mark insisted on filming the drive, getting B-roll of the headlights cutting through the pines, and everyone joking around in the car. Urban explorers, baby. Tyler grinned into the lens. Next stop, Demon Asylum. Luis chuckled nervously. You know, half the comments are gonna be like, fake as hell. That's the point, Jenna said. They think it's fake, but they still watch. Views are views. The laughter was easy, but there was tension underneath. Even Tyler, the biggest skeptic, kept glancing out the window at the dark shapes of the trees like he expected something to move. I'd read about Fairview before we left. It wasn't one of those places famous for a single horrifying event. No fire, no mass escape, no grisly murder to hang its reputation on. Just history. Decades of treatments, lobotomies, shock therapy, isolation chambers, hundreds of patients who went in and never came out. The state closed it down in the 80s, but they never tore it down. Too expensive, too remote. It sat there rotting for 40 years, and in that time the stories piled up. Kids dared each other to sneak in. Locals said you could hear screaming on cold nights. Supposedly a caretaker tried to hang himself in the lobby in the 90s, though no one could ever prove it. It was exactly the kind of place that drew people like us. The road ended in a cracked parking lot, weeds pushing through the asphalt. The asylum loomed at the far end, a black shape against a darker sky. 3 stories of brick, windows barred, roof sagging. The main entrance was boarded up, but a side door gaped open, crooked on its hinges, like a mouth missing teeth. Jenna muttered, "Well, that's inviting." Mark panned his camera up at the building, whispering dramatically, "This is Fairview State Asylum. Closed in 1984. Said to be one of the most haunted places in the state." Tyler cut him off with a fake moan. "Come play with us." Everyone laughed, even me. But when the laughter faded, the silence pressed in heavy. No wind, no insects, just the hollow creak of the side door swaying in the dark. We grabbed our gear, 2 cameras, 4 flashlights, and Tyler's bag of scare props. The moment we stepped inside, the air changed, colder, damp, with a sharp tang of rust and mold. The beam of my flashlight swept over peeling paint, broken tiles, and long hallways vanishing into shadow. "This is perfect," Mark whispered, grinning. "Creepy as hell." And it was. Too perfect. The first hallway opened into what must have been the lobby once. Faded linoleum, a shattered reception desk, papers strewn across the floor like someone had left in a hurry decades ago. We filmed our entrance, whispering commentary into the cameras, our footsteps crunching on debris. Tyler slipped me a look and tapped his pocket, reminding me of the plan. He'd go off once we got deeper, circle around, and start the fake scares. The building was a maze of corridors, stairwells, and empty rooms. Graffiti covered most of the walls. Pentagrams, tags, crude drawings. We joked about it for the camera, but I couldn't shake the feeling that beneath the graffiti was something worse. The original paint, the original walls, the things they'd seen. We passed patient rooms, small, square, each with a single narrow bed frame rusted against the wall. Some still had restraints dangling from the headboards. Jenna muttered about how creepy it was, but Mark zoomed in with his camera, loving every second. "Guys, this is gold," he whispered. "People are gonna eat this up." By the time we reached the second floor, Tyler slipped away. He gave us a quick nod before ducking down a side corridor. The plan was simple. He'd wait until we were filming in a room, then start making noises down the hall. We'd pretend to freak out. Easy. Mark set the camera on a cracked windowsill, adjusting the focus. Jenna leaned into frame, whispering about how cold spots were supposed to mean ghosts. Luis laughed nervously. I filmed over his shoulder, catching the peeling paint and shadows behind them. That's when we heard it. A metallic scrape. Long, slow, like metal dragged across tile. Mark's grin widened. Perfect. He's starting. We froze, waiting. The sound came again, echoing through the corridor, louder this time. "Okay, that's creepy as hell," Jenna muttered, playing her role perfectly. But then footsteps approached from the opposite direction. Tyler stepped into the flashlight beam, chain still in his bag. "Yo," he whispered. "You guys give me the signal yet?" For a second, nobody spoke. Mark frowned. "Wait, that wasn't you?" Tyler blinked. "Wasn't me. I was waiting for the cue." The scrape came again, this time closer, much closer. The sound didn't stop. That long, slow scrape, like someone dragging a metal bed frame or a heavy chain across the floor, echoed again through the corridor. Louder this time. Closer. We froze. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Even Mark lowered his camera for a second. Tyler swore under his breath. "That's not funny." "I thought you said it wasn't you," Luis whispered. "It wasn't." Tyler's voice was steady, but I saw the way he tightened his grip on the flashlight. The noise came once more, a shrill, grinding cry of metal against tile that rattled up my spine. Then silence. Mark, ever the filmmaker, broke it first. Okay, this is gold. Just keep rolling. Whatever that is, we use it." "Are you serious?" Jenna hissed. "That wasn't Tyler, so what the hell was it?" Mark just grinned, trying to keep control. "Old building, babe. Pipes, rats, wind, whatever. Doesn't matter. Just looks good on video." None of us argued, but the laughter and easy jokes from earlier never came back. We kept moving, deeper into the second floor. My flashlight beam jittered across cracked tiles, rusted door frames, graffiti and black spray paint that looked like it was dripping blood. "Leave" was scrawled across one door. Another had, "They never let us go." Tyler snorted. Classic. Dumb kids with a spray can. But his voice wavered just a little. We reached a hallway lined with patient rooms. Mark wanted to film a sequence of us investigating, so he set his camera on a tripod at the far end, catching the whole corridor. We opened doors one by one, sweeping flashlights into the tiny, suffocating rooms. Rusted bed frames, peeling paint, scraps of old paper underfoot. "Imagine being locked in here," Jenna whispered, "day after day, with nothing." "Creepy as hell," Luis muttered, "like a prison." "Worse," I said before I could stop myself. "At least prisoners know why they're there." The words hung too long in the stale air. Then came the whisper. It slid through the corridor, so faint I thought I'd imagined it at first. A hiss, too soft to make out, like someone's breath carried down the hall. Luis spun. "Did you hear that?" We all had. Mark grabbed the camera, zooming into the shadows. "Tyler, that you again?" Tyler held up his hands. "Nope, don't pin that on me." The whisper came again. Closer. Clearer. It was saying something. I don't remember the exact words. It was fragmented, like a bad signal on an old radio. But I could swear it said, "Stay here." Jenna's flashlight beam shook against the wall. "Mark! I don't like this." He tried to laugh it off, but even Mark's grin had faltered. "Cameras are rolling, babe. Just play along." None of us wanted to, but we didn't stop either. A few minutes later, it got worse. We were moving down another corridor when Luis yelped, stumbling forward. "What?" Jenna snapped, swinging her flashlight at him. He was clutching his back, eyes wide, teeth gritted. "Something." He sucked in a sharp breath. "Something scratched me." "What do you mean, scratched you?" Like claws." "Bullshit," Tyler said, though his voice cracked on the word. Luis turned, lifting his shirt. Jenna gasped. Across his back, 5 long gashes scored down from shoulder to waist, fresh, bleeding, like someone had raked fingernails across his skin. My stomach twisted. "Holy shit," I whispered. Tyler stepped back. Nope, he did that himself. Or he got caught on something. Nails, rust, whatever." "You think he dragged his own hand down his back like that?" Jenna snapped. "Look at it!" Luis's breathing was ragged, his face pale. "I swear, I didn't touch anything. I just felt it. Like someone was right behind me." We swung our flashlights down the hall. Empty. Mark finally spoke, voice flat. "Okay, keep rolling. This is insane." His hands were shaking as he adjusted the focus. We tried to laugh it off again, but it didn't stick. Every creak of the floorboards made us spin. Every flicker of our flashlights made us jump. The deeper we went, the worse it got. We passed what must have been an operating room once. Rusted tables, leather restraints stiff with age, shelves of broken glass. Tools scattered across the floor, hand saws, pliers, long, thin pics that looked more like torture devices than surgical instruments. Jenna muttered, "Jesus Christ, they really did this shit here?" Tyler gave a hollow laugh. Guess that's what passed for medicine. Luis wouldn't look at the tools at all. He kept glancing at the door, like he was waiting for someone to walk in. It was in the next room we found the files. A large office, half collapsed, filing cabinet still standing against one wall. Most drawers had been pried open, papers scattered, but some folders remained. Mark pounced on them immediately. Oh my God, jackpot, actual patient records. He shoved a folder into my hands. The paper was yellowed, brittle, typed in stiff black ink. Name, Eleanor Green. Admitted, April 12, 1956. Diagnosis, hysteria. Treatment, transorbital lobotomy. Repeated sessions. Patient, unresponsive. Termination by order of Dr. Samuel Greaves. My throat went dry. The folder had photos paper-clipped inside, black and white. A young woman in a hospital gown, eyes wide, face gaunt. Then another photo, after. Her mouth slack, gaze empty, like the light had gone out. I shoved it back into the drawer, bile rising in my throat. Jenna was holding another folder. This is sick. She dropped it to the floor. We shouldn't even be touching this stuff. But Mark kept flipping through, eyes wide behind the camera. This is insane. Real documentation. This'll make the video go viral for sure. Mark! My voice was sharp. This isn't content. These were people. He barely heard me. He was pulling out folder after folder, flipping through pages, whispering into the camera. Luis tugged on my sleeve. Hey, look. He pointed at one of the cabinets, at a drawer that was still closed. There was a strip of masking tape on the front. On it, written in faded black marker, was a name. Luis Ortega. For a moment, nobody breathed. Then Jenna yanked open another drawer. More names. Mark Collins, Tyler Brooks, Jenna Morgan, and Daniel Price. My name. We stood in silence, staring at those drawers. "No," Tyler muttered. That's not possible." Luis's face had gone pale as chalk. "That's my name. That's literally my name." Mark tried to laugh, but it came out thin, strangled. Coincidence. Just coincidence. Old names, common names. Don't freak out. But Jenna was shaking her head. "No, look." She pulled one of the folders open. Inside, beneath the yellowed papers, was a black and white photo. The image was blurred, but the face was hers. Same sharp cheekbones, same dark eyes, same tilt of the head. My skin went cold. Every folder was the same. Photos, descriptions, procedures, lobotomies, and every one of them looked like us. "Okay." Tyler slammed his folder shut, voice breaking. "Nope, I'm done. This is bullshit. This is fake. Somebody set this up." Mark shook his head. Who? Who would do this?" Tyler jabbed a finger at him. "You. For content. Admit it, Mark. You planted this crap to freak us out." Mark looked genuinely offended. "Are you insane? How the hell would I even get this stuff? These files are 50 years old." The argument swelled, voices rising, panic pushing at the edges. Then the whisper came again. This time, clear. All 5 of our names. Spoken in a rasping chorus, as if dozens of voices were saying them at once. My blood ran to ice. We turned as one, flashlights swinging to the dark corner of the room. And there, just for a second, in the beam of my camera, was a figure. Thin, gaunt, hospital gown hanging from its frame, eyes black pits, then gone. The figure was gone almost as soon as I saw it. One blink, and the corner was empty again, just peeling paint and dust. But we'd all seen it. I could tell by the silence, by the way Jenna's flashlight shook, by how Luis pressed himself back against the filing cabinet as if he could sink into the metal and vanish. "Tell me that was you," Tyler whispered, voice fraying. "Tell me you saw that too." Nobody answered. The whisper came again, our names, drawn out like a chant. The air in the room seemed to thicken, like breathing through wet cloth. "We're leaving." Jenna's voice cracked, but she forced the words out. "I don't care if we have to break a window. We're getting the hell out of here." We didn't argue. Not this time. We retraced our steps to the stairwell. The heavy door at the landing groaned as we shoved it open, flashlights cutting through the gloom. Luis reached the bottom first. He grabbed the handle of the asylum's main doors and yanked. The sound echoed through the empty lobby. Locked. He slammed his shoulder into it, again and again, but the door didn't budge. The metal frame rattled in its housing. "Come on," his voice cracked. "It wasn't locked before. It wasn't—" "Stop. You're gonna break your arm," I said, pulling him back. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mark tried the doors next, shaking them hard enough to rattle the glass panels. Still nothing. Tyler swore, pacing fast, pulling at his hair. "This is wrong. This is so wrong." Jenna spun on him. "You think? What the hell do we do now?" Before anyone could answer, the sound came again. Footsteps. From upstairs. Slow. Heavy. Steady. Step. 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 We turned as one, staring up the stairwell. The light from our flashlights barely reached that high. The landing above was swallowed in black. But the sound kept coming. Closer. Mark raised the camera automatically, though his hands were trembling. Then, just as suddenly, the sound stopped. The silence that followed was worse. We didn't wait to see what was up there. We pushed deeper into the asylum instead, flashlights darting across murals of mold and graffiti, broken wheelchairs, sagging gurneys. Every shadow felt alive. Every gust of stale air sounded like breath. Luis stuck close to me. He hadn't said a word since the doors, but I could feel the tremor in his hand when our shoulders brushed. We turned down another corridor, narrower than the last. Patient rooms lined either side, their doors half open like crooked teeth. That's when Jenna gasped. "What?" I spun. She held up her phone. Her face was pale, her hand shaking as she pointed the camera toward the hallway. On her screen, the corridor wasn't empty. Shapes stood in every doorway, thin figures dressed in hospital gowns, dozens of them. Their heads hung low, faces obscured, bodies swaying gently as though in some invisible breeze. But when I looked with my eyes, the hall was empty. "Holy shit," Tyler whispered. "I don't see anything." "On the phone," Jenna said, thrusting it toward him. He flinched back when he saw. Jesus Christ. She panned the phone slowly, the figure shifting with the movement. Still faceless, still swaying. Then one of them lifted its head. Even through the grainy camera, its face was wrong. Hollow sockets, lips stretched too wide, teeth bared in a silent scream. Jenna yelped and dropped the phone. The screen cracked as it hit the floor. When I bent to grab it, the camera feed was gone. Just static. The hallway was empty again. We moved faster after that. Nobody spoke. Nobody wanted to. We turned corner after corner, searching for a window that might give, a fire exit, anything. But the deeper we went, the more it felt like the asylum was rearranging itself around us. Corridors looped back to where we started. Rooms seemed to shift when we weren't looking. "This isn't right," Louise finally whispered. "We're walking in circles." Tyler's face was slick with sweat. "Don't say that. Don't you dare say that." But he knew. We all knew. It happened in the long corridor. We were moving single file, Tyler in the back, muttering to himself, Jenna in front, clutching her cracked phone like a talisman, when Tyler screamed. The sound ripped through the hall, raw and desperate. We spun. He was gone. 1 second he was there, flashlight beam bouncing across the wall. The next, nothing. Just the sound of his scream fading into the dark. "Tyler!" Jenna shrieked, running back. There was no sign of him, just his flashlight lying on the floor, still on, beam stretching across the cracked tiles. Mark grabbed it with shaking hands, sweeping the light across the hall. He couldn't have just vanished. He had to go somewhere. "He didn't go anywhere." Jenna's voice broke, rising into hysteria. "He was right there, and then he wasn't." "Shut up," Mark snapped. His own fear bled through the words, sharp and panicked. I stood frozen, ears straining. The silence pressed in hard. Then, faint, drifting up from the walls around us, Tyler's voice, screaming, begging, but not from any one direction. It came from everywhere at once, echoing in layers. His cries twisted, breaking into laughter, then into sobs, then back to screams again. Jenna covered her ears, tears streaking her face. Luis swore in Spanish, pressing himself against the wall. Mark kept filming. His hands shook, but he didn't lower the camera. "Why are you still?" Jenna started, but her voice cracked into a sob. Mark cut her off, voice low, almost mechanical. "Because if we don't make it out, people need to see." His words hung heavy, terrifying in their honesty. We didn't see Tyler again. Not really. But later, when we checked the cameras, he'd still be there, in the background of shots where he shouldn't be, standing in doorways, watching us, smiling. That night, the asylum didn't let us rest. Every time we paused, whispers crept out of the dark. Sometimes it was our names. Sometimes it was fragments of sentences. "Help us. Don't leave. It hurts. Stay forever." Luis was the worst off. He jumped at every sound, whispered prayers under his breath. At one point he swore something had bitten him. He yanked up his sleeve to show a deep crescent of teeth marks in his arm, already purpled with bruising. "No," Jenna said, stepping back. No, this isn't happening." Mark just filmed, wide-eyed. His voice was a whisper when he finally spoke. "They're marking us, one by one." We ended up in another operating room before dawn. I don't even remember how we got there. The asylum seemed to funnel us down hallways until we had no choice. The table still stood in the center, restraints rotted, but intact. The walls were lined with cabinets, some half open, revealing glints of rusted metal inside. Tools too sharp, too cruel, to be anything but instruments of pain. The smell of old iron filled the air, and scrawled across the wall in what looked horribly like dried blood were words: "We never left. Neither will you." Jenna broke then. She slid down the wall, sobbing, her flashlight beam trembling across the floor. Luis crouched next to her, muttering prayers, crossing himself over and over. Mark kept filming, always filming. I just stared at the words, feeling them sink like claws into my chest. And then, from somewhere deep in the asylum, a new sound began. Not whispers, not footsteps, but singing. Children's voices, high and sweet, echoing through the halls. A lullaby. And with it came the scrape of metal, dragging slowly across the tiles, moving closer. The lullaby echoed longer than it should have. High-pitched, slow, soft. But every note felt wrong. It wasn't music. It was a summons. I pressed myself against the wall, feeling the rot of peeling paint under my fingers. Jenna was crouched beside me, shaking so hard I thought she might split in two. Luis's lips moved in whispered prayers, each syllable trembling with fear. Mark's camera whirred in his hands, always rolling, his hands slick with sweat. His wide eyes scanned the corridor like he expected to catch something alive in the lens. We didn't speak. We barely breathed. The lullaby stopped suddenly. Silence pressed in so hard I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Then came the scratching. Slow, measured, almost polite, except it wasn't. Across the hallway, a figure appeared, thin, pale, hospital gown hanging loose, its head tilted unnaturally, as if trying to see us without moving its neck. It raised a hand, long, spindly fingers dragging along the wall, nails like needles scraping the tile. Then another appeared, and another, dozens of them, stepping out from the shadows, swaying, swarming. We ran. The asylum had changed, or maybe it always had this power, and we were finally seeing it. Hallways looped back on themselves. Stairwells ended in walls. Doors opened into corridors we had already passed. Our flashlights bounced across rusted gurneys, broken chairs, the dark shapes of rooms that looked like they were waiting for us. Luis screamed. Something had grabbed his arm, just a quick, sharp tug, and dragged him sideways. He yanked himself free, showing teeth marks already bruising, before scrambling after us. Jenna's phone buzzed in her pocket. A notification. We crowded around. The screen displayed a live feed of us, walking down a corridor. Behind us, pale figures in hospital gowns loomed closer, faces empty. Mark raised the camera. "It's recording itself!" The figures were all around us now, shadows stretching from walls, pooling like liquid. Their mouths opened and closed soundlessly, a silent choir of rage and pain. We didn't make it to the windows. They were barred, just as before. The main door we had battered that first night remained locked, impervious. The asylum wouldn't let us leave. And it had chosen its next victim. Luis vanished first. 1 second he was beside us, whispering prayers. The next, he was gone. A scream ripped through the hall, then silence. We stopped, panicked. "Luis!" Jenna shouted, tears streaking her face. We ran after the sound, but it wasn't anywhere. The hallway behind us had changed. Doors we had passed now opened to walls. Floors shifted under our feet. And then we saw him. On one of the operating tables, strapped down with leather restraints. His eyes wide, mouth opening and closing as if he were screaming underwater. pale figures hovered above him, some holding long pliers and rusted tools. Mark dropped the camera for a moment, frozen in horror, then grabbed it again. "Keep rolling," he whispered. "God, keep rolling." Jenna screamed and tried to run. One of the pale figures stepped forward. Its hand reached for her, fingers impossibly long. She stumbled, fell to her knees, dragging herself back. I grabbed her arm. "Go! Go! Come on!" But the asylum had her too. We didn't stop. We ran blindly down corridors, stairwells twisting impossibly as if the building itself was alive. The screams followed us. Whispers of names, laughter, crying, scraping nails across tile. The tang of iron thick in the air. Mark kept filming. The camera showed things our eyes couldn't. Figures moving through walls, shadows writhing, hands reaching out of the floor. The more we ran, the more we realized this was never just a building. This was a trap. And the patients had never left. We ended up in the basement, a long hallway lined with cabinets full of files, just like the office above, but older. Dust choked the air. The lullaby returned, faint, almost comforting. But I knew better. Something moved behind the cabinets, a scraping, dragging sound. Jenna screamed, and the door behind us slammed shut, locked. I shined my flashlight into the shadows. A figure emerged, pale, gaunt, wearing a hospital gown rotted with age. Its eyes were black pits, fixed on me. Its mouth opened in a silent scream, then stretched wider until it made a wet, tearing sound. I stumbled backward. Mark swung the camera. "Keep rolling!" I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. Luis, or what had been Luis, now part of the figures. His body twisted unnaturally, head jerking back and forth. "Stop!" Jenna cried. Then a cold hand clamped on my shoulder. I spun. Nothing. The basement seemed endless. Every step forward led us deeper. Files lined the walls, names staring back at us. Photos. Patients. Some looked like friends we had just lost. Others looked like us. I couldn't tell what was real anymore. Mark was holding the camera, muttering, "It's all here. It's all real. Don't stop. Don't stop filming." We stumbled into a room that was different. Tables, leather straps, tools, instruments too cruel for human hands. And in the center, a single chair. Jenna's eyes went wide. No, we can't." The chair was empty. Then, a shadow moved across it, slowly, deliberately. A whisper hissed in our ears. "Stay." I grabbed Jenna's hand. "We have to go, now." The floor beneath us creaked. The walls seemed to pulse. And then, the chair filled with Mark. He was sitting there, hands tied to the arms, head tilting unnaturally. His camera fell to the floor, still recording, lens trained on us. "Mark!" Jenna screamed. The pale figures gathered, around the chair, around us, around everything. And the whispers became a chorus, a chant. "Stay, stay, stay." We ran. We don't remember how we escaped the basement, only that we ended up in a corridor we didn't recognize. Jenna and I were the only ones left. The asylum had taken the rest. Tyler, Luis, Mark, gone. All that remained were the files, the tools, and the whispers. The building itself seemed to pulse with hunger. It wasn't done with us. And somewhere in the dark, we heard them, the lullaby, slow and sweet, calling us back. We kept moving. We didn't look back, but I could feel them watching. Always watching. We didn't stop running. Jenna and I, alone, sprinted through corridors that twisted impossibly. Stairwells that shouldn't have led anywhere. Doors opening into walls. Every step felt heavier, the air thick with iron and decay. We didn't speak. We didn't breathe properly. Only the sound of our own footsteps echoed, bouncing off walls lined with shadows. Somewhere behind us, faint whispers chased us, calling our names. Daniel. Jenna. Stay. 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 The floor beneath us creaked and groaned. Rusted pipes overhead rattled like bones. Doors slammed in the distance, punctuating the lullaby that drifted faintly through the asylum. Soft, sweet, but unbearably wrong. We turned a corner and froze. The hallway ahead was lined with bodies, or what used to be bodies. Figures in hospital gowns, pale, faceless, standing motionless, eyes black as pits. Their hands reached toward us. I yanked Jenna backward. Go! She stumbled, nearly falling. I grabbed her hand. We make it to the main exit, now! But the exit wasn't there. Instead, a wall of shadow and twisted shapes blocked our path. Doors that had been there before were gone. Windows that had offered a glimpse of the outside now showed nothing but darkness. The asylum itself had become alive. We ran down a side corridor instead. A faint light flickered ahead. Hope. Maybe a window. Maybe a door. Anything. But the light revealed another truth. The walls were lined with photos. Hundreds of them. Faces of patients. Faces of us. Mark. Tyler. Luis. Our own faces. Younger. Older. Twisted. Each with eyes wide in terror. Each frozen in some act of suffering. Jenna screamed and tried to tear herself away. This isn't real! This can't be real! I shook my head, feeling bile rise. It is. And we're next if we don't keep moving. We found a staircase leading up. The steps groaned under our weight. I held the flashlight as we climbed, every shadow along the walls seeming to stretch toward us. Then we reached a landing, and the asylum did something we hadn't expected. It opened. The main doors. The boards were gone. The lock had vanished. Sunlight spilled into the decayed lobby. Freedom. We ran. Out of the asylum, into the overgrown parking lot. The air outside was sharp, clean. Birds chirped in the trees. Jenna collapsed to her knees, sobbing. We made it. I didn't speak. My lungs burned. My heart hammered. The weight of everything that had happened pressed down on me. But it wasn't over. Not really. Because when I looked back, the asylum was still there. Empty. Silent. As if nothing had happened. And then, in one of the windows on the second floor, I saw movement. A shadow. Pale, thin, with black eyes. It raised a hand, slowly, deliberately. And I recognized it. Tyler. Or what had been Tyler. His lips opened, and a whisper slithered out, carried by the wind. Stay. Jenna gasped and grabbed my arm. Daniel, we have to go. We have to leave. I nodded, swallowing back bile. We will. We have to keep moving. We didn't stop. Weeks passed, or maybe months. Time had no meaning. We stayed hidden, never together for long, constantly moving. But the faces haunted my dreams. Every camera I touched showed them. Every reflection in glass, in water, in metal. Their eyes followed me. And then the letters started. No return address, just black envelopes. Inside, photographs of the asylum, of us, of the friends we had lost, and sometimes, movement. Shadows in the corners of the photos, impossible figures, watching. Jenna and I survived, but we didn't escape. Because the asylum had followed us. And I know, deep down, it always will. The lullaby drifts through my dreams. I hear whispers in empty rooms. I see figures in the periphery. And I know one day, it will call us back. We are alive, but we are not free. And some doors can never be opened.